Hey, this is Rob Ryder, and today is Friday, December 4th, 2020, and we're going to be speaking about Executive Order 12926, which was the implementation of the National Voter Registration Act of 1993, and that it was knowingly and willfully disobeyed. And so was the act, because the executive order was disobeyed. Well, that particular act has got criminal penalties written into the act, so somebody committed a crime by not fulfilling the act. So more on that in a second. But by the way, as part of getting ready to do this, I figured out today, hey, an affidavit is not evidence. Excuse me, but a deposition is. And if you have heard all the talk on TV about all this election fraud and that nobody's, but they haven't provided any evidence, it's all baseless. It's because the attorneys are having people put in affidavits instead of depositions. Now, whether that's on purpose or not is yet to be determined, but it's what's happening, and until that changes, there isn't any evidence. And I'm sure it's done on purpose because it's being done by the bar, right? By esquires who are impersonating attorneys at law. And I'll show you evidence, documentary evidence. So we'll get to that in a minute. But I'm Staff Sergeant Robert Allen Rutluski, United States Army veteran. And if you're a veteran, you should put your rank at the front of your name. Otherwise, they're going to want to stick Mr. there. This is very interesting. Well, I didn't used to put it there. It always come back Mr. Rutluski, right? But normally when I put it there now, they come back and they call me Robert. They. I'm always talking about they as being them, whoever them are, right? That this parallel jurisdiction that we found ourselves stuck in. So, my avatar is Rob Ryder. That's what I go by. My email address is quarterrecord@AOL.com. So, my phone number is 616-712-6179. And I want to take care of this first, right? That this affidavit is not evidence, but a deposition is, right? That let's not argue with definitions that come out of law dictionaries. So I'm using Bouvier's, right? If you want to use Black's or something else, I'm sure it isn't different. But in Bouvier's law dictionary, you would see that it says an affidavit, practice, an oath or affirmation reduced to writing. Okay, deposition is evidence. The testimony of a witness reduced to writing. So one is an oath, and the other one's testimony. Right? An affidavit differs from a deposition. It says so in its definition. So it's not a fucking definite. It's not a deposition. And a deposition is evidence. An affidavit is just practice. Right? So these attorneys are practicing. Or these esquires are just practicing. They're not really going to court. They didn't put in any evidence. And here's a perfect example of that. This is one of these cases going on here in Michigan where, people putting in what they saw as the affidavit of Daniel Gustafson, right? It's not the deposition of Daniel Gustafson. It's an affidavit. So it's not evidence. Right? Now, this was put in by these attorneys for the Great Lakes Justice Center. It says attorneys for plaintiff. But if you went to the Michigan Roll of Attorneys, which is kept by the Supreme Court, and said, I'd like to see the Roll of Attorneys for these people's names, they would all have their full legal name on them. Right? You can't use a middle initial in a legal matter. That's why you have a legal name. It's called your identification. And it's on your driver's license. And that's the name you got to use. You don't use it, well, then you're misidentifying yourself. Right? This is like acting like a spy. So, and that's what an esquire is. An esquire is a crown agent, right? They're not an attorney at law licensed by the state. They're a crown agent impersonating an attorney licensed by the state when they use this style of name. And then they submit an affidavit into a court that doesn't really exist. There is no state of Michigan in the circuit court for the County of Wayne Court. And that's what's supposed to be at the top of the paper is the name of the court. There is no court called in the Circuit Court for the County of Wayne. There may be Wayne County Circuit Court for Wayne County, something like that, but there's no in the Circuit Court for the County of Wayne. It's not the name of a court. This is just practice. right? So it's not evidence. There's no proof. And as we'll see, if we go back and look at the definition now, who can do a deposition, right? It's the testimony of a witness reduced to writing. Hey, that sounds like a sworn statement, right? Whatever you say, reduced to writing in due form of law. So it's got to be done properly. Taken by virtue of a commission or other authority of a competent tribunal. Well, by virtue of a commission, that would be a commissioned officer doing a sworn statement, an Army sworn statement form, or other authority of a competent tribunal, such as a court recorder, which can do depositions. Right, so these are, I'm going to go try that, I think, is call a court recorder and see if they'll do my deposition. On an Army sworn statement form, right, which I've shown in my last few videos quite often. So, right, the Army has its own form for sworn statements, and you fill the thing out with your statements, blah, 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 fill in all the blocks, right? This isn't quite done yet, but it's, check, 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 make sure everything's done. But this is the affidavit for the sworn statement, right? So the affidavit is just this part down here, but this is like my deposition. This is my sworn statement. So this is like being deposed, right? And the deposition has an affidavit in it, which is the oath, right? Because what did it say an affidavit is? Affidavit is nothing but an oath or affirmation reduced to writing. Okay, well, that's what this thing is. Hang on a second here. Got so many things opened up. Right, that I, Robert Allen Berlusky, have read or have had read to me this statement, which begins on page 1 and ends on whatever page it will be. I fully understand the contents of the entire statement made by me. The statement is true. I have initialed all corrections and have initialed the bottom of each page containing the statement. I have made the statement freely, without hope or benefit or reward, without threat of punishment, and without coercion, unlawful influence, or unlawful inducement. That's what I'm swearing to. Right? That's what the affidavit's for, to swear to that part. But this is my statement, which isn't my affidavit. So there you are, right? This idea, when you hear them say on the news that they haven't put in any evidence, shown no evidence, they're correct because the attorneys are having these people put in affidavits. Could somebody please tell Donald John Trump or Michael Flynn, General Flynn, or General McInerney, or one of these people that's trying to do the right thing, and tell them attorneys are putting in affidavits instead of depositions, and make an attorney answer. Right? We can get it all figured out and change the world. So, okay, I wanted to, like I said, but a lot of this has to do with me putting in this particular sworn statement, deposition, having to do with the fact that this executive order, implementation of the National Voter Registration Act in 1993, right, was not complied with. And this act said, right, to do what this act said to do. So I should say this executive order said to do what this act said to do. And all that had been put into, codified basically into Title 52 United States Code, Chapter 205, National Voter Registration. All right, so, I mean, in this title is both the act and the executive order. So they can't say it doesn't exist. It's just they didn't do it. Yeah, I wanted to show the executive order real quick. Oh, yeah, there it is. Executive Order 12-926, implementation of the National Voter Registration Act, 1993. Now, the funny thing is, between this U.S. Code and the original act, they've changed a couple words, it seems like, and I'm just going to use the act instead because that's what the executive order said to do. It didn't say to implement Title 52. It said to implement the act, which is the National Voter Registration Act 1993. So just real quick, I'm going to go through this act, and I'm going to show you, just highlight a few things that were the act said to do, and well, we'll soon see that they didn't do them, so the act wasn't followed. And because this act wasn't followed, you were not properly registered to vote in a federal election, right? You were given a simulated legal process instead, and your vote's illegal. And that's just the way it is. So somebody should go to jail because it's written in the act. Okay, so what did the act say? Well, the findings that the rights of citizens of the United States, see, it says lowercase c, citizens of the United States, to vote is a fundamental right. It's the duty of federal, state, and local governments to promote and exercise that right, and discriminatory and unfair registration laws and procedures can have a direct and damaging effect on voter participation in elections for federal office. Well, that's what happened. And this act was supposed to keep it from happening, and they didn't implement it. So it happened. Okay, so national procedures for voter registration, election for federal office. Each state shall establish procedures to register to vote in elections for federal office by an application made simultaneously with the application for motor vehicle, by mail-in application pursuant to a section in this act, and by application in person at the appropriate registration site designated with respect to the residence of the applicant. But we don't have a residence. They won't give us a residence address. See, we don't have a residence address in the United States. They have us in the United States of America, this parallel fictional jurisdiction, or it's King George III's jurisdiction and his successors from the Treaty of Peace, 1783, where it says in the first paragraph that he's claiming jurisdiction over United States of America. Not United States, not the United States of America, just United States of America. Well, go look at your passport. It says United States of America on it. Right? That's where they put us. Like somehow we got into this parallel jurisdiction. Okay, and then at federal, state, and government office designated under Section 7. So you should have been able to get the proper forms at the proper office, and if you didn't get the proper form, then you either weren't in the proper office or the proper office didn't have the proper form. Right? I don't know how exactly what it is. It did, right? You walk in a door, it says Department of Motor Vehicles, and that's where you get your driver's license done, or at least you think you do. But, as you'll see, they don't have the right form there. So either that's the wrong office or it's the right office with the wrong form. Right? It's the office of the parallel jurisdiction. And, so basically we should be doing all of our government interaction down at your local government, which is either a township, this is in Michigan now, township or a city. Right? So that's where I should be going to get my driver's license. Right? But they have me going to the DMV in state of Michigan, not the state of Michigan, not Michigan, state of Michigan, which isn't the government. In the first Constitution for the state of Michigan, it says in there, by the style and title, the state of Michigan. And that isn't what they're using. So it's not the thing that was created under the Constitution of the state of Michigan. Let's continue on. Okay, simultaneous application for voter registration. We got that, right? Each state motor vehicle driver's license application and renewal shall serve as an application for voter registration. In other words, you're supposed to have both on the same form, right? And two places to sign. And, well, here you go, forms. Each state shall include a voter registration application form for elections for federal office as part of an application for a state motor vehicle driver's license. It's all on one form. Voter registration application portion of the application for the state motor vehicle driver's license. So in other words, again, I just said, right, it's a portion of an application for a state motor vehicle license. So they both need to be on the same form. Well, that ain't how they did it in Michigan. All right, so I'll show you that. Mail-in registration. Each state shall accept the and use the mail voter registration application form prescribed by the Federal Election Commission pursuant to Section 9A2 of this Act for the registration of voters in elections for federal office. Well, that didn't happen either. And the Federal Election Commission did not prescribe any frickin' forms. Or if they did, it's not what they're handing out when you try to get your mail-in registration form. A form described in paragraph 1 or 2 shall be accepted and used for notification of a registered change of address. Voter registration agencies, right? Each state shall designate agencies for the registration of voters in elections for federal office. So you would think, well, that's why I go to my township clerk. Because that's the agency that's been designated. But really, it isn't an agency of the state. It's a local government, right? So why am I going down to the township? I should be going to some agency, maybe. At each voter registration agency, the following service shall be available. Distribute a mail voter registration application forms in accordance with paragraph 6. Oh, guess what? So they had to, they had to do a form the right way, and they don't do it. What else do we have here? The mail voter registration application form described in 9A2, including a statement. So this is, how you know if you're looking at the right form now, because they have to have these statements on them. Right? Includes a statement that specifies eligibility, contains an attestation, requires signature under perjury, and then provide the form that includes this question, right? It's got to have this question on there. Got to have these boxes for the applicant to check, and it's got to have the statement here. Yeah, it's got to have this statement here. All these things got to be on it. So, right, if it's not on there, then it's not the right form. Requirements with respect to administration of voter registration. In general, each state shall, right, in the case of registration by motor vehicle, if a valid voter registration form of the applicant is submitted, and we can stop right there because we weren't given a valid voter registration form. So no matter what you submit, it's not valid. B, if a valid voter registration form, well, there you go again. Right, that's under Section 6. So this first one was, the motor vehicle. Then number 6 is the mail-in voter registration form. If a valid voter registration form accepted by agency, right? So now that's if you did it in person at an agency. If a valid voter registration form is received by the appropriate state election official, not less than so many days. So I believe that's the Secretary of State is the proper state election official. Right, all that stuff is spelled out in the law, right? And none of it happened. Where are we now? Where are we now? Can't keep up with the sections. A notice is described in this paragraph if it is a postage, prepaid, and pre-addressed return card sent by forwarded mail on which the registrant may state his or her current address, together with a notice of the following effect. All right, so if you didn't get this notice, then, you weren't properly registered. If the registrant did not change his or her residence or change residence but remain in the registrar's jurisdiction, the registrant should return the card not later than the time provided for mail registration under some subsection. If the card is not returned, affirmation or confirmation of the registrant's address may be required before the registrant is permitted to vote. Right? So if they didn't send you this card and get it returned, then they can't prove your address. And we're not getting this card. They're sending a simulated legal process instead of the proper card. Public disclosure. Voter registration activities. Each state shall maintain for at least 2 years, shall make available for public inspection and where available, photocopying reasonable cost, all records. Okay, so this is about, now that it's over with, going and looking at the records, just for the proof that it wasn't done right. The records maintained pursuant to paragraph 1 shall include a list of names and addresses of all persons to whom notices described in D2 were sent. So, right, there's the proof. Go down there and see how many notices were sent. For the purpose of this section, the term registrant's jurisdiction is an incorporated city, town, borough, or other form of municipality. If a voter registration is maintained by county, parish, or other unit of government that governs a larger geographical area than a municipality, the geographical area governed by the unit of government, or if the voter registration is maintained on a consolidated basis for more than one municipality or other unit of government by an office that performs all the functions of a voting registrar, the geographical area of the consolidated municipalities or other geographical units. So there was this thing where they created these, what the hell did they call them? Had to do with roads. God. Because here we have the Kent County Road Commission, which is part of this other thing they created. Oh, it was a special district of some kind. That's what it is, special district. Right? And it has all the powers of a municipality. It's like, well, maybe that's where you're supposed to register. So many things to figure out yet, but, this stuff isn't happening. So this is where it talks about what the Federal Election Commission is supposed to do. In consultation with the chief election officers of the state, shall develop a mail voter registration application form for elections for federal offices. Well, the one you get doesn't say anything about being done by them. It's done by some other entity. And here's the criminal penalties. Right? If you knowingly and willfully deprive, defraud, or attempt to deprive or defraud the residents of a state of a fair and impartially conducted election process by the procurement or submission of voter registration applications that are known by the person to be materially false, fictitious, or fraudulent under the laws of the state in which the election is held. Right? So, it wasn't known by me, but it's known by them. They're a person, and they knew it, and they had me do it anyways. They knowingly and willfully deprived me of an impartially conducted election process by having me file a freaking registration form that's invalid. So that's all there is to the act, right? That's basically the whole act right there. And there's lots of acts been written, but there's not lots of acts necessarily that have an executive order from the president saying to implement the act. But this one has one. And so since it wasn't implemented, well, they violated an executive order. That should make it something that the military can get involved in, because executive orders, if I'm not mistaken, they have to do with martial law. Right? Isn't that what Lincoln started doing when he declared martial laws? He started writing executive orders. So, okay, all this is going on, right? So what I wanted to do was a sworn statement about these facts and, go down and, well, now it's a deposition, but have a deposition done or executed on my statement and have it investigated, right? But up until this morning, but I'm still going to do it. So I'm going to finish this form up, and I'm going to send it to my township. And then I'm going to send it to the city of Rockford, because my address has in it Rockford, right? 10955 14 Mile Road Northeast, Rockford, Michigan, 49341-8664. And the post office has told me that's my official address. Well, fine, then I live in Rockford. Right? I mean, that's my municipality, apparently. It's not Oakfield Township. And in fact, the way that they have done this, on my voter registration card, it says Oakfield Township, Kent County. It doesn't say Oakfield Township, Michigan, right? Like, Oakfield Township is just a subdivision of Kent County, which is Michigan, or in Michigan. So it's not its own municipality, but it's supposed to be. So that's, that jurisdiction there where Oakfield Township's in Kent County. But there's also this thing called city of Rockford. Okay, and on the so on the mail it says Rockford, Michigan. So Rockford has a charter from the state of Michigan, and in its charter, it's supposed to be able to have a justice of the peace and all sorts of things that they don't have, but it's still in their charter. And so I'm going to mail one to them and say, you guys need to do what you need to do to witness my sworn statement, because it has to be done by a commission officer or somebody appointed by a competent tribunal. What were those words again? It's pretty specific. Right? The testimony of a witness reduced to writing in due form of law. That's what you're giving them. You want to give somebody your testimony reduced to writing in due form of law, taken by virtue of a commission or other authority of a competent tribunal. It's just I'm choosing to use, a form that was filled out. So I had to figure out what the blanks were. Is this good enough for the Army? It's good enough for me. I'll just fill in the blanks for the Army. Whatever you want, Army, I'll fill them in. Right? As far as this file number, well, I believe that file number will come from the person that takes your deposition, because they got to put this in a book, give it a certificate number, and then they'll put it on there. Right? And that'll start the file number. But anyways, this is what I was going to say, that I accuse the Federal Election Commission, State of Michigan, and their conspirators of crimes against the United States for failing to implement 107 Stat 77, which is that National Voter Registration Act of 1993. It's called the NRVA or NVRA, resulting in citizens of the United States disenfranchisement of fundamental rights to vote in elections for federal office, and the loss of due process protections guaranteed by the 5th and 14th Amendments. And the reason for that is they had us register into a jurisdiction that's not under the Constitution. So, we lost all of our protections, right? But I just put that because I can easily point to that one, right? If they put me outside of the protection of the Constitution, then I no longer have the protections guaranteed under the 14th and 15th Amendments. Hang on just a second, please. Okay, sorry about that, right? So, we lost our protections. We citizens of the United States in Michigan were denied the fundamental right to vote in elections for federal office held on November 3rd, 2020, because Executive Order 12926, implementation of the National Voter Registration Act of 1993, was knowingly and willfully disobeyed, and valid registration forms required by the NRVA were not created, or if created, were not distributed. Voter registration forms prescribed by NVRA for motor vehicle agencies, mail registration, or voter registration agencies were knowingly or willfully replaced with counterfeit registration forms submitted by the accused to render citizens, or substituted by the accused to render citizens of the United States unqualified to vote in the election for federal office. You didn't vote for the President of the United States of America, like it says in Article 2 of the Constitution. It didn't happen. You weren't properly registered, right? So let me go back and start that one again. So where did that start at? That's a long one. So voter registration forms prescribed by NVRA for motor vehicle agencies, mail registration. Voter registration agencies were knowingly and willfully replaced with counterfeit registration forms substituted by the accused to render citizens of the United States unqualified to vote in the elections for federal office and unregistered in their place of residence. The NVRA sections 5, 6, and 7 mandate the use of specific styles of registration forms. And then 5, it said that, each state motor vehicle driver's license application submitted to the appropriate state motor vehicle authority under the state shall serve as application for voter registration with respect to election for federal office unless the applicant fails to sign the voter registration application. But it's the state motor motor vehicle driver's license application that you're supposed to fill out to do that. Then in Section 6, we talked about each state shall accept and use the mail voter registration application form prescribed by the Federal Election Commission pursuant to that Section 9A2 for the registration of voters in elections for federal office. But the Federal Election Commission didn't prescribe any damn documents. And then in 7, voter registration agencies, at each voter registration agency, the following services shall be made available: distribution of mail voter registration application forms in accordance with paragraph 6. So it ends up being the same form that's in Section 6. It's actually paragraph 6 is farther down in Section 7. But they all fit together, right? There's this one form was supposed to be created, national voter registration form, and it wasn't done. And then in Section 8, requirements with respect to administration of Voter Registration Act required the use of valid voter registration applications. It is an impossibility for the state to have complied with the registration forms, or if the registration forms were not valid voter registration applications. If valid voter registration applications were not available, then persons knowingly and willfully deprives, defrauds, or attempts to deprive, defraud the residents of a state of a fair and impartially conducted election process. Such persons are subject to criminal penalties under NVRA Section 12. And that, came out of Section 12. Knowingly and willfully deprives, defrauds, or attempts to deprive or defraud the residents of a state of a fair and impartially conducted election process is exactly what happened when they gave you the invalid voter registration application to fill out. Take notice, Michigan does not have an application for voter registration and application for motor vehicle driver's license. Instead, citizens of the United States are offered a state of Michigan voter registration application and Michigan driver's license state identification card address change form instructions. Right, that's the form. I'll show you the form. It's when they go online. That's when they give you to fill out for voter registration. This form is not an application for both motor vehicle drivers and voter registration, and does not comply with NVRA Section 5. Let's look at it. Right, State of Michigan voter registration application. Again, it's supposed to have both in the same form, right, with your driver's license. But this is application and Michigan driver's license, state identification card address change form. So this baby isn't going to make it. Right? And like in all these forms, you can't find a form that says, I am a citizen of the United States. Yes or no. It will be, I am a U.S. citizen, I am a United States citizen, or I am a citizen of the United States of America. But they won't put one that just says, I am a citizen of the United States of America. I am a citizen of the United States, which is the only phrase that's used in the Constitution. Either the word citizen is used by itself, or it's called citizen of the United States. There is no United States citizen in the Constitution. There's no U.S. citizen in the Constitution. And there's no citizen of the United States of America in the Constitution. Right? So they're getting you to agree that you're in this other freaking jurisdiction. Okay, so that was that one. And then take notice, the voter registration application, Exhibit 2, claimed by the U.S. Election Assistance Commission to be the National Mail Voter and Registration Form does not comply with NVRA Section 6. And the Federal Election Commission did not develop a mail voter registration application form for elections for federal office as mandated by NVRA Section 9, Federal Coordination and Regulations to satisfy NVRA 6 and 7. Obviously, you need to have the law sitting next to you if you're going to make any sense of this, which is why we looked at the law first. And you don't need to understand it exactly, right? But I'm just quoting different sections of what it said is supposed to happen in that section and that it didn't happen. You can just refer to the section to see what it is that did or did not happen. Right? So the law said that the Federal Election Commission is supposed to do something. But when you get the mail-in form, it comes from the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, which isn't the Federal Election Commission. And I actually emailed, this is, back in this summer when I was looking at this stuff. What was it? General Service Agency, GSA? Looking for the forms and so forth, and always got sent to the same place for the same form. Rosita went down to a recruiter station, because that's one of the places you can get the forms for. Remember, it said you could do the mail-in, or you could do the voter registration with your driver's license, or you could go to a prescribed in-person registration office, and one of those is a recruiter station. And they gave her the same one, right? This is the form that you get, that this is supposed to be the mail-in voter registration application. And it's not correct. And, then you start looking at it really close. Right here I am. Are you a citizen of the United States of America? No. Well, then I can't use this form. Okay, well, then this must not be the right form, because I'm a citizen of the United States. Again, they don't say citizen of the United States of America anywhere. And in the act, in fact, it said citizens of the United States. It doesn't say citizens of the United States of America. It's a game they play. It's a scheme. And they want you to agree to be a Mr., a Ms., whatever, put you in their jurisdiction. Put your name backwards, because that's the way the Jews do it, right? This is the Jewish system. It's something I heard this some couple of years ago now from some preacher online, I guess it was, that back in the time of Jesus, that all of the kingdom is on like the right hand side of Judea. When they wrote from left to right. And on the left-hand side of Judea, they wrote from right to left. Right? And so it was like Judea was a place where the transcription was done between the two. I don't know how true that is, but I do know that Jews write backwards. Right? They write their sentences backwards. They write from right to left. So, that could make this first name, last name. Okay, and then home address with apartment or lot. And I think this thing we're missing, we never put our lot number in. If I live in the township, what's the lot number that the township is assigned to this address that I live at? So, let me show you where that form comes from. Hang on a second. So, this is the U.S. Election Assistance Commission. And they've changed this a bit since, there we go. Which isn't the place that's supposed to have done the form, but it's the place they lead you to, right? National Mail Voter Registration Form. You click there and you get this whole booklet that's going to print out. Right? Register to vote in your state by using this postcard form and guide. And you go down here and you got, well, there you are. Right there it is. They have one where you can fill it out this way, or you can print it out and print in it. And in both cases, right, it's got this official election mail from the United States Postal Service on there. So, right, it's not the right form. The form doesn't have all the little statements that are supposed to be on the form, right? So, so that's enough. That's enough reason to say it's not the right one. Just like with for your state, because the application for voting isn't on the same application as for getting your driver's license, then it's not the right form. You don't have to look any further. Right? So to me, it's pretty dang clear. And well, ever since then, it's been trying to figure out what to do with it. So let me just finish it up then. Okay, so instead of using valid voter registration applications to comply with NVRA Section 2 findings and purposes, persons have participated in a conspiracy and created counterfeit voter registration applications. Well, you know that counterfeiting is a crime against the United States. That's why I like to use the word counterfeit. The use which invalidated the registration of citizens of the United States as legal voters for the federal elections conducted on November 3rd, 2020, and any prior federal election date since the issuance of the executive order 12/9/26. Because, you know, this isn't like they just did this. They've not been there. They never made the forms. The citizens of the United States and Michigan were disenfranchised by the accused conspiracy and crimes against the United States from not only legal voting for federal office, but also denied evidence they are registered qualified electors of their permanent place of residence, resulting in the loss of due process protections guaranteed under the 5th and 14th Amendments. So they have you living like you're homeless, you know, and so in fact, people who get general delivery are just admitting that they're homeless. Right? But that's how they treat all of us, like we're homeless. We're not really registered in our municipality. And it takes two things to claim a domicile: to register your natural person and your legal person in a municipality. And they're not letting us do that. Right? So my natural person, let's just say that's my proper case name. And my legal person, well, that's my uppercase name. It's my business. And I've shown you can go and get a EIN number for it as a business, so it is a business. And one of the things to know is that it isn't always just all caps. It's when they put your name backwards with a comma in it. Britluski, comma, Robert Allen. Because that isn't my name backwards, because my name doesn't have a comma in it. They created something else by putting that jot and tittle between my last name and my first name. And that's how they signify a business. So that's what's going on. That's where we're at today. All these, I want to go back over this real quick, that, you know, an affidavit is not a deposition. We got to have depositions done. So this is another thing. If you can have any way to get this fucking definition right here, right, these definitions to somebody that can do something with them, like, you know, a general, to say, hey, here's the problem, general. Right? They have these people putting in affidavits. See, this is what Rob Ryder's showing. Look what he showed, General. Look at this. Look at this, sir. Where is it? I'm so excited I can't hardly believe it. All right, they're putting in an affidavit, sir. Well, an affidavit, that's just practice. Right? It's not evidence. A deposition is evidence. So go back and have these people put in a deposition, please. Right? They got to use their full legal name, just the way it shows up on their driver's license. Got to be full legal name. And I don't believe these people can't do it. Right? That isn't, they're not using the name of an attorney. They're using the name of an esquire. And a notary public isn't authorized to do a deposition. Right? Taken by virtue of a commission or authority of a competent tribunal. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe notary public can do a deposition, but the thing is, it needs to be a deposition. That's the evidence. And the reason that the Army hasn't done the way they're doing on this form is with these witnesses here, and the officer that does this, is then this is legal in all jurisdictions where, you know, wherever the United States is. So, you know, read the top of the form. It says routine uses. The information provided may be further disclosed to federal, state, local, and foreign government law enforcement agencies, prosecutors, courts, child protective services, victims, witnesses, the Department of Veterans Affairs, and Office of Personnel Management, right? And if this block was filled out the way I think it is by the person that does the deposition and makes the book entries and then gets a certificate number or whatever, and they put that in there, then that's just evidence that the thing is in the record and they're going to have to pay attention to it. Right? But we keep going and trying to use a notary who can only do private matters, not public matters. And we're trying to make this a state issue, not a local issue. The difference between being in the Court of Common Pleas and being in the King's Bench. The Court of Common Pleas is only for matters between subject and subject. But anytime the king or the sovereign or the Constitution or the United States is involved, right, then it would be in a higher court, in the King's Bench. And so that takes a different level of officer to do it. Somebody that's been either has a commission or other authority of a competent tribunal. So, okay, that's good enough for that. Well, we'll see what happens next. I'm sure I'm waiting for a few phone calls on what people are doing, and I need to get back with them on this idea about the deposition anyways. So let me do that. And y'all have a good day. We'll see you now.